Welcome back to Total to Titles. I'm your host, Nino Brown. We have a very special 2022 Carolina Panthers offseason breakdown. I got two special guests today. My brother from another mother, Jarod. How we doing tonight?
I'm great. Hey, where Baker goes, I go.
I love it. And of course, from Carolina Blitz, Miss Hurt, how we doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to these joint practices tomorrow. So,
oh boy, my Patriots. I hope they can live up to the bar here. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been covering the Carolina Panthers.
my name is Vashti Hurt. I am editor-in-chief of Carolina Blitz, and it's a site dedicated to kind of bringing you out of the box coverage of your favorite sports in the Carolinas. So we cover the Panthers, we cover Duke, UNC, NC State, some Hornets. So yeah, right now we're knee deep into Panthers coverage, and we've been credentialed to cover the Panthers. This is going on our fourth year, and but we were doing coverage prior to that. But this is the first time being fourth season being part of the official Panthers media group.
Nice. You seem like you guys got your hands full.
yeah, we do. It's gonna get real here in a couple of weeks when college football starts. But you know, we're doing what we love, so there are no complaints.
So, are you a Panthers fan, or are you just a fan of the team because you work in the field?
I'm not a fan, but I have been following the Panthers. I went to college in Charlotte, so I've been following the Panthers for quite some time.
Okay, awesome. Now, do you have a favorite Panthers player since you've been covering the Panthers?
Probably Cam Newton has probably been the most quote worthy and newsworthy player so far. I mean, that could change, but he gets and got the people going. So yeah, we go based off of what our viewers and what our readers like, and they have liked Cam Newton. He drives numbers. So right now I would have to say him, but you know, people like Baker Mayfield, people like Matt Corral. So you know, it changes with the seasons, but in the last 4 years, Cam Newton has been a big driver for our site.
My co-host here is, as you can tell, is a big Baker fan, and he's got high expectations for Baker this year.
Well, I mean, he's going to be the Panthers starter, in my opinion. So we'll see.
All right. So last year was a rough year. You know, 5-12 in the NFC South. What went right and what went wrong for the Panthers last year, in your opinion?
Well, defensively, they had one of the better defenses in the league, although they had a hard time stopping the run. And they had a hard time stopping chunk plays and explosive plays. Offensively, they were abysmal, hence the departure of Joe Brady. And then also, you know, the Sam Darnold is still there. He is not the guy right now at that will lead the Panthers to victory at quarterback, hence them bringing in Baker Mayfield. So I think it was a combination of things, but they're trying to now have the offense catch up with the defense. And then the defense, from what Matt Rule has said, go from good to great. So what went well last season, the defense was formidable. What did not go well was that the offense was abysmal.
Jarod, you have anything you'd like to ask?
So for me, you know, we talk about different players coming in and stuff like that. And I really like Damian Wilson to come in to be a run stopper. I love Matt Ines. I think I really enjoyed him, you know, at Washington. I really don't think he got the shine there because there's so many guys like Ryan Kerrigan, Jonathan Allen in front of him. Do you think a guy like that, you know, with those two guys, even with Corey Littleton adding, do you think that's the pieces they need to stop the run this year?
Yeah, and I think last time I checked, Ioannidis was hurt. He hurt himself in practice before we went to Washington. So yeah, he brings a veteran presence to that linebacker room. Wilson had some good plays. That first team defense looked really good. Frankie Luvu is a guy that they expect to take a step this season, and he only had one play against the Commanders, and it was a TFL. So, that linebacker room, I think, is getting better. We yet to see how Shaq Thompson will be this season. He had some work done on his knee, but those two veteran guys in that room, I think that's big for them. And as you said, stopping the run will be a priority for them this season. I think they were in the bottom third of the league in stopping the run last year. And so I think that those guys in the linebacker room provide a physical presence that they probably haven't had since Thomas Davis left.
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, if that tells you they're a bottom third stopping the run, but they're a top 5 defense, just tells you how good their back end is. And that's with J.C. Horn hurt. Having Dante Jackson back, I think Jeremy Chin is one of the best athletes in football. I really believe that. I obviously coming out of the combine, the only person that might have been better than him at the combine was Simmons, and bringing Xavier Woods over just I think really helps that team in the back end. J.C. Horn healthy, Dante Jackson healthy again. They could be scary to me. And
yeah, I think the secondary will probably be the best group that they've had. Period. I know they had a good group when they went to the Super Bowl with Jake Delhomme and Steve Smith. They had gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. They had a good secondary then. I know Mike Minter Mike Minter was, I'm pretty sure he was one of the safeties, and they had the guy from Ohio State. I'm forgetting the 2 corners, the 3 corners who were really good. But I'm drawing up. That's going to mess with me, so I'm going to bring up those names because I wrote them in an article and now I can't remember their names. But with Dante Jackson, with J.C. Horn, C.J. Henderson has had a really good camp. He's smiling more. He's talking more. He can't speak highly enough about Steve Wilkes. And I think that Steve Wilkes is coming back to Carolina with that head coaching type pedigree and defensive coordinator experience. He is really riling up that group. Xavier Woods looks like, from what I've seen in practice and even in the preseason game, I honestly think if they reach their full potential, they will be one of the best secondaries in the league and by far the best secondary the Panthers have had in a very long time. And I think they could probably be better than that 2002-2003 group.
Nice. That was an elite.
I agree with you. For me, talking about Wilkes, I'm a big Wilkes guy. And from what I hear, he was one of the big perpetuate guys of Baker. He goes, hey, I've seen this guy when they brought him in. He's a guy who leads the team. And this is just me getting word from there. Can you tell me anything about Wilkes? Anything about bringing Baker in?
When we ask questions as media, the offensive guys don't really talk about the defense, and the defensive guys don't really talk about the offense. So we haven't asked Wilkes about Baker, but I can't speak to that. I haven't heard that, but I'm sure that Matt Rule and Scott Fitter did their due diligence when they were looking for options to challenge and replace Sam Darnold. We all know that they went heavily after Deshaun Watson, and that did not work out, maybe to their benefit, looking at things now. And got Baker Mayfield. They got a Baker Mayfield who has the confidence that he needs, and then also the skills. So yeah, I didn't hear that about Wilkes, but I wouldn't be surprised if they asked everyone who has head coaching experience what they thought about bringing him in.
Nice. Now,
great. I appreciate it.
You brought up the offense, so I'm just going to swing it on over that way. You got a new offensive coordinator now, and you brought in, obviously we spoke about Baker Mayfield. You brought in Austin Corbett. You brought in also Donta Foreman and a few wide receivers in Rashad Higgins and Brandon Silstris. So what can we expect from that offense? How does CMC look? Is he healthy? Because the last 2 years has been really tough for fans to watch.
Yeah, CMC always looks healthy in the off season. It's the regular season where he's run into issues. So yeah, he looks healthy. He has a pop. he hasn't been having the grind of a season on him. I mean, it's been 2 years in a row where he hasn't played the majority of the season. So I think he's looking to make a comeback. He isn't really, I mean, we asked him about it. We asked him about his workload. We asked him about his conditioning and training. I think he's really tired of talking about it. For him now, it's about proving that he can stay on the field. But, you know, Christian McCaffrey is a weapon. I mean, I think everybody knows that. They also have Foreman, who they brought in from Tennessee. They have Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, who I feel is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. And I think that this year he will make people in the league give him his flowers. He has been one of the most consistent wide receivers, and nobody puts any respect on his name. I think that changes this year. You have Terrace Marshall out of LSU coming into his second year, provides a big receiver potentially for Baker Mayfield and Higgins. Like, they already have, they already know each other, and it shows on the field. And so I think that and that's not even, Ben McAdoo is like Magneto to me. He's like, and I wrote about this, he seems like he's like this, I don't know, this evil genius type guy. And I think that he will have that offense. All the quarterbacks always talk about how detail oriented he is and how hands-on he is as an offensive coordinator, and they love that. So I'm excited to see. We're going to see vanilla stuff in the preseason, but when you put all of that together, I think the Panthers have the talent if they can get their O-line correct. If they can get the correct combination of guys, if they can stay healthy, and if they can play well. I mean, the last year coming into the season, a lot of people said Carolina had top five most weapons offensively. And that hasn't changed. They have the same guys, but they've also added Baker Mayfield, and they've added Higgins, and they've added Icky as a left tackle who they hope will fall into that role of protector for their quarterback. So I think the offense has gotten better. We just have yet to see how much they've gotten better.
Now, you mentioned my guy Marshall. How's he been in camp so far? Is he gonna get out there this year? Last year he looked like he was kind of lost in a little bit of the time that he was out there.
He made some nice plays in training camp. He was injured and in a red jersey the last couple of practices. I was actually flying here to Massachusetts, but part of the pool report was that he was practicing today. So I'll be able to report tomorrow on, how much he was able to, or how much he performed, he was able to do in practice in these joint practices. But I think Terrace is ready to take that leap. He's by far the tallest and biggest receiver on that squad. And I think he has, specialty positions. You got to have skill, but you also got to have a bit of that swag. And Terrace has that swag. He just has to put it all together. And, everybody's not going to be a rookie sensation. I think he has the tools. If he can stay healthy, I think he'll have a good year.
Jarod?
So real quick, I'm really big into analytics and different aspects like that. Baker Mayfield, when running the 11 personnel set, was top 6 in the league in 2020. His first 3 games last year before he got injured, he threw 75% and 80% against 2 really good opponents defensively, because the Texans were pretty good defensively last year. Then he obviously got hurt. But Ben McAdoo tends to run the 11 personnel set. Do you think that had to be the biggest aspect, of him playing that way? If I can get a guy who throws 75% from 11 personnel sets, I think it's a pretty good match for Ben McAdoo.
Yeah, I think that, Ben McAdoo didn't necessarily have the greatest things to say about Baker coming out of college. But I also think that Ben McAdoo, and we saw what he was able to do in New York with Eli. He will tailor this offense to whichever quarterback is going to be QB1. In this instance, I think it will be Baker Mayfield, and they both have had success, as you mentioned, with that scheme. So I think, I mean, people are sleeping on the Panthers, which is exactly where I think the Panthers want it to be. But I think this may be a good match for all persons involved. Yeah.
You know, we keep talking about DJ Moore, and I can't stop talking about him on fantasy football wise, because I honestly think it doesn't matter who his quarterback is, he's going to have 1,200 yards. But I think he breaks 7 touchdowns this year for the first time, and he might do that in the first 8 games.
I can totally see that. Like, DJ Moore is one of those guys who, you know, he this year especially, if I haven't played fantasy in a while. No, last time I played fantasy, I did win my league, but it's been a while. But DJ Moore is one of those sleeper type players, and I don't know why people sleep on DJ Moore. But yeah, I agree. I could totally see him breaking 7 touchdowns in the first half of the season alone. Absolutely, I can totally see that. He's underrated, and you know, DJ Moore has also, you know, had different quarterbacks since he's been in the league. And so Sam Darnold, who, you know, doesn't have the confidence to air it out, honestly, and some people may take this and run with it, he and Baker could have a Jake Delhomme, Steve Smith type relationship. Jake Delhomme was like, okay, I'm going to throw it up there and I'm going to let Steve go get it. And I think that Baker is the type of quarterback who has the gumption to say, okay, you know, I'm going to put it up there and I'm going to let my receivers make plays for me. And that's what they were missing in Sam Darnold, who was a check down king. And they had Teddy Bridgewater, who was a check down king. So allowing them to spread the field more, go vertical and make plays. I think that, you know, you can't have a quarterback who's scared, and Baker Mayfield is definitely not scared. So I can totally see DJ having a breakout season, and not just DJ. I think DJ will be the most productive receiver, but I think they all eat on that offense.
All right. Well, I got a guy on the offense.
I think we're both particularly about the tight end, right? I know Nino is with about it.
That's where I was going, Mr. Tremble. He was a non-factor last year, but I mean, Sam Darnold doesn't really target tight ends, but Baker does. So, is there a chance that we see Tremble?
Baker,
you know,
tight ends 140 passes last year.
We'll see. You know, Tremble is number 2 on the depth chart. Ian Thomas is ahead of him, and Ian Thomas is making more money. So I don't see him necessarily beating out Ian Thomas for that number 1 tight end position. But I think he certainly has more upside. And if Ian Thomas can't get it together with catching the ball, he'll for some reason, Ian Thomas will catch balls that he shouldn't catch and then not catch balls that he should. Pause. But but yeah, so it's like, you know, a lot. They're really high on Tommy Tremble. And so, but you know, if we're talking fantasy, I don't know if I would get Tommy over Ian, because I think that Ian will probably get more plays than Tommy.
That's I was more on the assumption that Ian was more of a blocking tight end. I think it's because, like you said, he can't really catch the ones he's supposed to catch. So I can see why they just kept him blocking. But do note it, and I'll have to keep that in the memory bank when I invest my shares into Tremble. Now, you spoke about Icky, and you guys had a pretty good draft in 2022. You had Icky at 6 overall. Then you had Matt Corral at 94th overall. Linebacker Brandon Smith at 120. And then edge rusher Amari Bono at 189. Then you had Cade Mays at 199. And then cornerback Kalen Bonds at 242. Can you tell us a little about these guys? Which ones you think are going to be right off the rip starting for your team?
I don't know if anybody is going. Well, Icky will probably, right now on the depth chart, he's listed behind Brady Christensen at left tackle. I don't think that will be the case coming into the regular season. Icky is going to get the reps that he needs during the preseason to become a better pass blocker. That was his kind of, you know, area that he needed to work on. Very good run blocker. Matter of fact, in practice, the first time I saw him go with the first team was a goal line formation, and they ran to Icky's side, and it resulted in a touchdown. But as he becomes a better pass blocker, which was, with offensive linemen, they don't really hit their stride. You have an anomaly, a guy who's like really beasting in their rookie year, but usually second year, third year is when they hit their stride. And but I do think Icky will play left tackle, eventually start, and then they'll slide Brady Christensen over to left guard. Matt Corral, he came into camp saying that he planned on competing to be the starter. That's the right thing to say. It didn't happen. He doesn't get a lot of reps in practice. I think he'll get more reps in the preseason. He didn't have the greatest game against the Commanders this past week. I think he was 1 for 7 and 11 yards.
1 for 9.
Almost got his neck ripped off.
Yeah, 1 for 9. But then the offensive line was abysmal. He didn't have much time to do much of anything. So that you have to add context to those numbers. Brandon Smith looked good in the preseason. Barno looked good in that game against the Commanders. Cade Mays struggled a bit from what I saw. But again, what was he? Sixth round pick.
6th round, yes.
6th, right?
Yep.
And he's a Swiss Army knife type offensive lineman where, he's lined up. I think in college he lined up at almost every position along the offensive line. So he's a guy that adds versatility. I don't think that he's somebody who will come out and start automatically. And I got to keep it a buck. I haven't really heard much from Barnes at all. So yeah, Icky really is the only guy who I think starts out of the gate. Upside potential is definitely there with Barno. He impressed in that first preseason game, and also Smith. So we'll see what happens.
Jarod, do you have anything you want to?
For me, my biggest thing is bringing in Corey Littleton. We didn't know what he's going to be. Is he going to be LA Ram type, or is he going to be the Raider guy? But in the PFF grade after his first preseason game, 92.5 PFF grade, highest graded PFF linebacker of the weekend. How do you feel about him moving forward?
Matt Rule spoke very highly of him, and it's kind of like, gosh, I'm drawing a blank on names. The guy who got cut by the Panthers and went and balled out in LA last year.
Denzel Perryman. Well,
Denzel Perryman, exactly. He got traded, I think. He got traded and then went and balled out in Vegas. I think you could see that happening with Littleton. I mean, I've heard good things from the coaches. We've mentioned his name as media in practice as somebody who sticks out. So yeah, I think he has a good year for Carolina.
That'd be good for them, for him and the team. So
speaking on the linebackers, with Shaq starting on the pup, who's going to be the key guy there in the linebacker core that you think will step up and
it's Luvu. Okay. It's Luvu. I think that they're looking for him. The other guys that we've mentioned are still new to the system. Luvu, this is his 2nd year. He's familiar with Phil Snow. He came in last year as kind of a prove-it year to the Panthers and on a 1-year contract, and they extended him, and he's looked really good in camp. And like I said, and that one play against the Commanders, he had a TFL. He just looks hungry. He looks ready. And he's talking more. He's taking more of a leadership role amongst the players. And so, yeah, if with Shaq out, I think Luvu kind of becomes that guy in that locker room, in that linebacker room who takes that leadership role.
He looks good.
Yeah. We had one of our guys, George, had asked, what does Baker need to do to get a long-term extension, in your opinion?
Yes, long-term as in...
Say 3 years?
It has to be a playoff year for the Panthers. and their schedule is no cakewalk. They have one of the hardest schedules in the league. And, I think that Baker has to be consistent. I think that Baker has to cut down on his turnovers, and he has to be that guy who throws it up, like I said, and allows his receivers to make plays. All are characteristics which I think he can do. Honestly, when he came to Carolina, I was like, I don't know. This may be Sam Darnold, but just with a little spice to it. But I was wrong so far. I am woman enough to say I was not right with that, just in watching him in practice, watching how he moves, watching how the guys kind of interact with him. This Panthers team is more swaggy than people know. And also, the shadow of Cam Newton still looms in that locker room. And then they brought him back. And then, he's this larger than life personality who kind of leads that team in that offense. And then you go from that to Teddy Bridgewater and that to Sam Darnold. It's like, going from the club to church. And I don't think the team was ready for that. So now Baker's taking the team back to the club. Everybody's popping bottles. So I think it's that kind of like dynamic where, Baker's chipping at the guys, talking trash. And he's also the Panthers came out with their training camp confidential kind of reality series. He's playing a mentor to Matt Corral. When I asked Matt about after the game, his rough game, he says, he didn't even mention Darnold. He says, I have to be in Baker's back pocket. I have to ask him about things. I have to soak up everything that Baker has to teach me. So, yeah, I mean, if he continues to play that mentor type role to Matt Corral, and he's able to lead the Panthers, not just, as a quarterback, you can be a game manager. He can't just be a game manager. He has to be somebody who can win games for the Panthers. Then I think that, if he's winning, you stick with that winning horse, right? And I think that they would extend him.
I agree with you 100% there. Jarod, I know you're all in on that.
I am. I really think I think this is his best year. I said like 4 or 5 weeks ago that Baker's going to go 32-6 or 32-10. They're going to have 11 wins and they'll make a playoff, and he'll get a 3 to 5 year contract. And I'm willing to bet on it.
How much?
Woo!
But I'll put it this way: I already put $200. He wins comeback player of the year.
Wow!
And so my biggest deal is you already saw the chemistry pretty much the first week of camp with DJ Moore, which is the biggest deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Higgins is there. I think they're a top 5 defense again. I think teams that they really have to beat, they get to play at home. I think they could win the first 5 games, and that's bringing San Francisco there. Even if if they stumble against Tampa Bay, understandable. But you can get in the shootout with Tampa Bay. Ask Dallas. They did that first game last year. They'll probably do the first game this year. And I think the Panthers do well against Brady. That always has. They get in his head a little bit. So
yeah.
He got 30 touchdowns in a run offense with Cleveland in 2020, and he was 75% from 11 personnel in 2020. If he does that this year in Ben McAdoo's offense, 32 touchdowns is honestly easy in 17 weeks. So,
well, can I ask you a question, Jarod? Because I didn't, I'm so immersed.
Yes, ma'am.
What went wrong in Cleveland? I'm assuming that you followed his career in Cleveland. Like, how did it go from sugar to the other thing?
Well, you look at the first year, right? He comes in, he's supposed to just be the rookie. We can tell that he was a little bit held back from Jarod. He comes in, throws 62%. Here's what a lot of people don't know, and Nino's going to put out real soon. Over the last 4 seasons, 102 drops have been thrown by Baker. 102. Not when I'm talking about the bad plays or anything like that, just drop passes. right? 14 of which were touchdowns, right? He had, Nino, I gave you this doc the other day. I think he had 34 throwaways.
Yeah, 34.
Clock plays, not clock plays, just actual throwaways. So if we just take those plays away, the throwaways and the drop passes, he throws for 71.8%. That's it. I'm not talking about the bad plays. I'm not talking, off target, plays. Just the throwaways and the drop passes alone, he throws for over 71%, which is elite numbers, right? 14 touchdowns, which puts him over 100, which beats Peyton Manning in his first 5 years. He had, let's also throw into 12 of those drop passes were interceptions. So we go from 14 touchdowns and drop 12 interceptions. We're talking not just small numbers, we're talking all pro numbers. And then we know they're a good run team. Right? I think we all agree Cleveland's a good run team. But if we really look at their pass grade, they got absolutely ate up at the left and right tackle. Ask TJ Watt. 9 sacks in one game is absolutely terrible. I mean, when you're sacked over 40 times in 3 seasons, 3 out of the 4 seasons, that's what do you expect? So if you can still throw for in the 70 percentile, just taking the throwaways and the drop passes alone, I think we really see a different aspect. I mean, how many other teams have 102 drops the last 4 years?
But it seemed to be some personal stuff too. Like it didn't.
So we say that, right? And I posted that too. We everybody talks about OBJ being having a little personal to him, but the first person to comment on Baker's Instagram post on Carolina was OBJ. Like, hey, go beat, dude. Like, these guys hang out in the off season. I think we just see a little bit of, hey, bad press is good press, right? I think we all agree with that. Especially, if you're in headlines, let's make a headline. So if these guys are willing to hang out, and I mean, I'm an Oklahoma alumni, and they absolutely love this dude in Oklahoma. I mean, he still comes back. He contributes a lot off the field. We saw how much he contributes off the field in food drives there in Cleveland. He does the same thing in Oklahoma. If that person, we know that he likes to talk smack. I get that 100%. I think the team likes that. I think it's good for the team. But how many of all the offensive linemen and Corbett on the team now and Higgins, if they got so much love for this guy away from the team, maybe it's just a little bit more drama than we don't see. Maybe there's just push drama. You know what I mean? It's good press.
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally, as a member of the media, I purposely did not do a deep dive into what happened in Cleveland because I didn't want that to color how I cover him as a Panther. But I also was just curious from you as somebody who's followed his career, your thoughts. But I still am not going to do that deep dive.
As an outsider looking in, as an outsider looking in on Stefanski, though, how many guys ever requested a trade from his offense? And I'm not talking just Cleveland. I'm talking about Minnesota.
No, that's a valid point.
I mean, Stephon Diggs sure looks a lot better in a different offense. A lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe Stephon Diggs is a top 5 receiver, and I think he was a top 5 receiver in Minnesota, and he didn't get no love there. You imagine Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson on the same team together now?
Oh man. That'd be crazy. Absolutely. I got a question.
They're 2 number ones
to your head coach, though. He's 10-23 in his time there, in his tenure. That seat has got to be hot.
I think it is. But the crazy thing is, I don't think he's worried about it. And I think that's a good, honestly, I think that's a good thing for him. We aren't necessarily talking about his seat being hot. I think that if the Panthers lose, 3 out of their first 4 games, then that's going to be the headline. There's still a lot of people who don't like him, but I think Matt Rule is kind of like an offensive lineman, right? The first year was very rough for him, and it was also a COVID year. So you have no OTAs, you have none of the normal stuff that you're used to as a head coach coming into that position. Then second year you still have COVID. Then you finally get rid of Joe Brady, and then you learn at the end of the year, why did I bring all my college friends with me? Every now and then you got to get rid of your college friends and grow up. And that's what he did, and getting rid of Joe Brady. And I think Joe Brady wasn't with him in college, but it was a sexy pick at the time. Like, oh, he was so amazing at LSU. I never really bought into that hype because he wasn't even the OC at LSU. He was just a passing coordinator with very little experience. And that showed in the offense that he had at Carolina. But he brought all of his buddies from Baylor. And you know what? I respect the loyalty. But I think he learned from that, and he got some guys with experience. And every coaching, within coaching, on the NBA or in college or in NFL, if you have a coach who has very little head coaching experience in the league, they surround themselves with guys who do. Matt Rule didn't do that at the beginning. Now he has. You have McAdoo, who has a wealth of knowledge. You have Steve Wilkes, who got shafted in Arizona, but was he was very good in Carolina, and now he's come back home with, I think, a chip on his own shoulder. And you have Pasquarelli, who is leading the defensive line. You have Campen, who I've heard great things about as an O-line coach. So you bring in all of this knowledge and all of this experience that he didn't have initially, and you feed off of that, and you learn from that, and you have guys who will challenge you and be like, bruh, no, this is not how you do this in this big boy league. And I think that will be a good thing. So I think that Matt Rule has done what he can do to put himself in a position to win this season, and let the chips fall where they may. If they win, they win. If not, somebody at the college level will be clamoring to give him another job. So, I mean, it's kind of like a no-lose situation. If he can succeed in the NFL, he proved all of his haters wrong. If he doesn't, he's like, I gave it a try. Now I'm going to go back to college and make even more money.
I agree with you 100%. Well said. We're getting to that 40-minute mark. I know you just landed today and had a long train ride, so we're going to wrap this up real quick. But you had mentioned you had a tough schedule. Give us a number on how many on the record and how many wins you think the Panthers can get.
I always ask this. I don't do season predictions. I really don't. I am so sorry, because somebody will come and say, Vashti, I heard on this show that this is what you think the Panthers record is going to be. I think the Panthers do have a winning record this season. I think that, men lie, women lie, numbers don't, right? And in his third year, Matt Rule has seen a huge increase in record. He has shown vast improvement in his third year. I don't know what it is about year 3, but he hits his stride in year 3. And
every time,
I think that it will be no different this season. I think that I think the Panthers will have a winning record. And I also think that the Panthers go to the playoffs. Honestly, I don't think Tampa is that good, as good as they were last year. They've had O-linemen going down. I don't know. Brady's might not want to play behind that O-line anymore. So we'll see what happens. I think the NFC South, everybody has deemed Tampa Bay the king of the NFC South, and rightfully so, right? But outside of that, it's open season. With Atlanta, with their quarterback issues, and not sure what's going on with New Orleans, and then you have the Panthers, and I think that Tampa is beatable. So I think the Panthers have a winning season, and I think they compete for a playoff spot.
Love it. I know Jared's a big fan hearing that too.
Hey, so for me, I got a $100 bet that they finish the NFC. 70 to 1 bet. $100 I bet on that. To be plus 6.5 is the money line at minus 110. I got to win 11, so that's $200 I put on that too. So
nice.
6.5 is an easy one for me. I think the joke.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised. It's crazy. The Panthers always have good seasons when nobody's expecting them to have good seasons. And they disappoint when people are looking out for them. Nobody's been checking for the Panthers for quite some time. And I don't think that's really changed this year. Dante Jackson has said that they feel like they're a team that's looked down upon. And I think that is how the locker room and the franchise feels as a whole. And they will take that and they will feed that to their players week after week as a way to inspire them. With all that being said, I will learn a lot about this team in these practices on Tuesday and Wednesday. Last year, when they had joint practices against the Indianapolis Colts, they washed them. And at that point, it was like, whoa, like the Panthers don't look very good against the Colts. And so I will be watching with a very keen eye to see how they look against the Patriots. And if they continue to look good against the Patriots, it might be a good year for Carolina.
My Patriots.
I can't wait to see.
I'm in Boston and I already had some chowder.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Chowder? Is that how they say it?
Chowder. Yeah.
Chowder.
So real quick, before we wrap it up, we want to give you a couple seconds here to plug yourself and where everybody can find your content.
Oh, yeah. So you can follow us on Twitter at Keep Blitzing, or you can search Carolina Blitz. CarolinaBlitz.com is our website. And then, Carolina Blitz on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. So if you search Carolina Blitz, we're pretty much on all the social platforms.
Shanti, I want to thank you again. It was a pleasure. This was a great, informative episode on insight on Carolina Panthers. And again, thank you again, Jarod.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming on and being my co-host once again, buddy. And we're out.